right, welcome to Safe Space Conversations. I wanted to get everyone's input on when it comes down to mental health because it's something that we don't talk about often, and hopefully it's going to help others who are viewing this conversation as well as those who are listening. To start off, I wanted to find out from you, Marques, what was your takeaway from yesterday's conversation? What was like your top takeaway from yesterday about mental health support and the conversation we had?
Really, it was just more of that, how big of a problem it is and how everyone's trying to tackle that problem from different angles. And that's just what it is. It's more of like because it is a complicated problem. Mental health is a huge buzzword, but it actually it means something. It's what and it was nice to just hear other people speak on it because they like I live it. This is like I have PTSD, TBI. I have a whole list of different things. So it's nice when other people that are just wanting to understand what exactly it means when we speak on mental health. And it was just a good conversation.
There he is.
No,
What's up, my friend? Yeah, man, good. What's up?
good to see you.
Yeah, man, likewise.
I was scared. I was like, what these things?
So, Kingsley, I want to invite you in. I shared a lot of the recap, and you heard what Marcus shared. You've been doing this for decades. So, you've seen so many scenarios, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of outcomes, good and bad. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here. So, please share with us what's one good story that comes to mind of a youth you encountered who faced mental health challenges. And of course, we're not going to say names here, but
Right.
if we want to share our own personal stories, we can. But a youth that you noticed, wow, they experienced a mental health crisis or their family, but they had a support system, and you're like, wow, look at them now. Does a story come to mind right away?
Yeah, I mean, one of those stories that come to my mind is when the Parkland shooting took place many years back, and I was working with some of the teens actually from that through therapy who were traumatized by that, and so it was very difficult and challenging because it was in the early stages where everything was still fresh, and all the different conversations that were taking place, both positive and negative, and everyone had something to say about it. So of course, that only add to the trauma some people were experiencing. So one of the persons that I was working with, a client who had was at the school and gone through that, was of course. I mean, I can imagine just the devastation and the trauma on their lives. And so I work with a parent and the child and trying to navigate all of that and trying to frame things differently because every experience we have certain lens through which we look. The lens of our background, how we were raised. We have the lens of culture and society. We have, faith lens. And so there's a number of lenses that are contributing to how people experience their whatever the event, right? The event is shaped by that. So every event has a story, but the story that is being used doesn't necessarily mean is the story that's helpful. So my job was to help this student recreate a new story about what happened and how they could navigate that. And so by lending them and helping them to script a new story, they were able now to realize that they now have a new path forward. And with that as their base, then they were able to through time and of course and through constant revisiting the news story, they were able to become much healthier than they were initially. So I've seen that, and I could tell you, I've had other situations where it doesn't have to be the Parkland; it could have been other traumatic situations. But I find at the end of the day, every event has a story that we give it, but it doesn't mean that's the most helpful story.
Mm.
And so if we can find a way to then restore their story, and it might sound like a redundancy, but it makes a point here, then I find that it can create a change and put them on a new trajectory. And that's what I've seen happen in, as I say, over the last many, many years. I've seen it work over and over again for some. Some, of course, it's not as, you're going to talk about the whole family structure, because if you don't have the support system and a health system in place to hold that up, then it can easily go back to what it once was.
Thank you for tuning in to Safe Space Conversations. Let us know your thoughts on what we're talking about today. Post it in the comments section below. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Lise, I know you mentioned you're raising, you and your husband, you're raising your son, and he's a teenager.
Yeah.
When you hear about situations like Parkland, and there's so many, unfortunately, of school shootings, and him being a tall, handsome, young Black man. Boy, let me not, in case he hears this, I don't want him to be like, yeah, I'm a man, Mom.
I know.
I'm a man.
The door is closed.
Okay. You have some more years, okay? How do you, and I'm not sure if you're there yet, but how are you navigating not projecting fear on him based on what you see in the news, what you hear in the headlines? Or do you deal with that at all? I know for me, I was sharing yesterday.
Yeah.
I think I told you this as well, Kingsley, where there's a point where I was struggling with that. And at that time, I think my son was 9 years old, going on 10. And I was just like, don't wear black. You can't wear black this. You can't do the same things. You can't play the same way. You can't, you may think it's playing with your friend, but, depending on the complexion of their skin, it's easy for them to pinpoint you being the problem, not the other. So have you dealt with that before, or how are you navigating that? Because
Absolutely.
he's a teenager now, so I'm not there yet. So I'm leaning on you.
He's a teenager, but we've been having conversations, age-appropriate conversations along the way. I had the benefit of growing up on St. Croix, where my parents were born, so West Indian, Puerto Rican heritage, and I grew up where people look like us, right? And we were steeped in our history, and we commanded presence and everything. And then when we came to the mainland, when I came to the mainland to go to college, came face to face with a different reality. However, he has been raised here, and he didn't have that benefit. And so we have different conversations. I remember when Trayvon Martin was murdered, Messi was 4 years old. And I remember having this sick feeling in my stomach that my child could have that kind of outcome because of someone's hate. And of course, he was 4 years old, so I could not, I didn't have the words to say to him at 4. It wasn't a conversation, but I knew that I had to, at that point, to realize that I couldn't keep him in a bubble. We would have to have different conversations. And so as time progressed, we had different conversations about behavior, I didn't want him to become invisible. I wanted him to be able to feel free to be who he is, but I gave him parameters, right? If that makes sense. And then as he got older, there were different things, like when he wanted to ride his bike in the neighborhood and all of that, it was hard for me to let go, but my husband said, no, he has, he has to learn how to do these things. But we tell him, just beware of this, beware of that. If anything happens, this is how you conduct yourself. Mom and dad have your back.
Thank you for tuning in to Safe Space Conversations. Let us know your thoughts on what we're talking about today. Post it in the comments section below.
And as he got older into his preteens, having the talk about if we get stopped, your behavior in the car, and what to do. Those are all difficult conversations to have, but you have to have them because you want your child to come back home, right? You want your child to be aware that not everyone out there is looking out for your best interest, and you want him to conduct himself in a way that gets him back home, if that makes sense. It's a difficult conversation to have, but it's one that's necessary because this is the world that we live in. And we have actually told him, listen, the way you behave at home, the reason that we have certain guidelines, especially about respecting authority and so on, is because if you can't do it at home and you're out there and you encounter one of these individuals, it's not going to go well. And we've been, as he got older, let's say 14, 15, now 16, we're more direct in our conversation, but we are very careful about our tone. We're like, hey, you could go anywhere. You're made in God's image. You have a right to exist. We have a right to exist. And I want you to have the freedom to go anywhere and be anywhere you want to be. Thank you for tuning in to Safe Space Conversations. Let us know your thoughts on what we're talking about today. Post it in the comments section below. We'll be right back after this quick break. Thank you. So I'm taking notes from you. Okay, they're a few years apart. So I'm like, okay, Lisa, what happened in this stage? We're definitely learning. So thank you for that. So Marques, based on what Lisa just shared, like I share with those of you who are listening now, Marques, you served in the military. You have been trained in mixed martial arts. You told me you were a soldier before you're a soldier because you raised in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Ooh,
North
Philly.
Philadelphia, North
All
Philadelphia,
right.
North Philly.
North
All right, so
Philly, in
North
the house.
Philly. So you have training. You've done tactical, and you provide, strategies for your clients. But share with us what took place when you were about 40 or 41 with your encounter with law enforcement.
All right, so I had this. I'll start it off with. Now I had a mental health situation. I interject myself into that situation because I felt like I was more of like the neighborhood security because that's what I do. I've done security pretty much all my life since 2002. I'm the oldest of four. I've always looked out for other people.
Mm-hmm.
That interaction, police were called. Once the police were called, it instantly went from bad to worse. It was more of, they didn't like my demeanor. Plus, I was a good size, so I looked like a threat.
Mm-hmm.
They instantly started hitting me with tasers, and from that, it went from worse to worse. Because
We need there to be a change. We need police officers. We need them to protect and serve. The problem is you're trying to fix a system that has been messed up for how long?
Yeah, I guess it's the journey to healing. We're not there yet, but it's
And every victory is a good one. It's just that with every victory, for me anyway, I'm reminded of all the ones who still have yet to get their justice.
There's still more work to do.
Yeah, it's like I sit there, like I'm not gonna sit here and jump back and do backflips. Like, well, didn't you guys win? It's like it's not about us winning. It's about justice for all.
I'm kind of with Jamaal. Like I did wonder if if a message, if there was any at all, was communicated. Yes, it is definitely a bit of a sigh of relief in the sense that like don't want yet another case where we have to climb this seemingly unending uphill battle for justice, and you kind of want to reach a point where we have some of the, I want to say, cultural protections that some of the other groups of people get to embrace, if I'm being politically correct. And again, echoing with Jamaal, like I wonder how many more cases is it going to take to kind of reach that same level of the playing field. Mm-hmm. How many more times are we going to have to turn a case into a nationwide viral sensation in order for something to be carefully inspected, carefully reviewed? Mm-hmm. We're not just going to skip over details for convenience or what it sounded like.
And from that beating, it really it misconstrued what they were there for, because they were there for mental health. They knew they were there. They knew it was a veteran. They knew something was wrong, and rather than being the professionals there should be, they took an emotion. They were as emotional as I was, and they just wanted to win a fight. Yeah. And I'm before that, I was always for the police, because then I have a lot of police friends, and I know most of the time they're getting called into situations that they don't understand. Mm-hmm. So then they're just trying to just go with the flow of things. So I understand that. But the thing is, in my case, it's more of like, they were there for one reason, and I got sidetracked because of once I rolled up on them, because I also am one of them people. I'm proud of who I am, and I'm gonna talk to you the way anybody else is gonna talk to you, and they might not like how I was talking to, because I actually almost walked by all three of them before they started hitting me with tasers. And that's because that's because I'm a veteran. I always see myself as a veteran first. That was the night where I realized that I'm a black man first. Mm-hmm. And that's just what it is. Is more of like, I had to understand that I was in the dangerous waters, and the thing is like, what's the best way to swim in these waters? And it's like, one thing I made sure I didn't do, mm-hmm. I never put my hands on any of these police officers, because I know once I put my hands on them, everything's loose. The reason why I'm still breathing, mm-hmm. even though they beat me, the reason why I'm still breathing is because I never put my hands on. I never hurt one of them at all. Even when I drove their car, I made sure no one was in the way. I just moved it. I just got in the car and drove across the street, and none of the police were hurt. Mm-hmm. And that's the only reason why I'm able to talk to you guys today. And the worst part about it is more of, my family's had to, or will eventually see the body cam footage, mm-hmm. and see exactly what I had to go through and how I was treated. And that's a caveat that like, as right now, it seems long off, but in December, I'm in Veterans Court right now. So in December time, I'm going to be available. I'm gonna have the body cam footage available, and that's going to be a different thing, because now I have to realize, like, how am I going to show my children this? Because it's one of those situations where once it's released, mm-hmm. it's going to be in the news. Mm-hmm. And that's just what it is. It's like, so I'm trying to do a bunch of different things all at once. I'm trying to be the father, trying to be the husband, trying to be the survivor, and not lose myself within all of it.
So I hope that is the message that's, communicated, as well as hopefully a de-incentivizing, right? Where it's like, hopefully this brings out where it's like, you should never feel as comfortable as these gentlemen did, because the consequences are dire, and I feel like, unfortunately, we continue to get cases like this because we continue to have it over and over again in a public platform of, the consequences are situational at best for situations like this. So I'm hoping that it chips away in a positive way where the playing field can level out.
For sharing that, Marques, and to know that you made the decision. Yes, this is tough, but I want my story to help others. Like how Lisa and her husband, they're doing their best to prepare, to train, to educate their son. And like you mentioned, you pulled from your training. Yes, the decision you made in taking, that step, but you didn't hit back. You used your training. So that reminds me of, we have to continue to speak to our children about steps to take, what to do, what not to do, take classes, because when a situation arises, that's what you're going to pull from. And if you don't pull from anything, like Marques shared yesterday about, sometimes you can be in your emotions. Right. And law enforcement, when you get in your emotions, it's done.
TFG365 City, your digital getaway to prepare for the next level. We're so glad you stopped by to visit us today. My name is Yannick Jackson. It's an honor to serve as the mayor of this beautiful city. We believe that unwavering determination, innovation, and grit prove that there are endless opportunities regardless of one's background or visual limitations. Imagine being young and full of potential, yet feeling lost and unheard. The world feels like it's rushing forward, leaving you behind in this ever-changing technology, and your dreams appear distant. Here at TFG365 City, we're all about empowering you to break down barriers and shatter stereotypes. We encourage you to rewrite the story of what's possible on your career journey.